Hello, my name is Hakon and welcome back to my channel where today I'm quite excited because I just received this parcel from Greece. And just to do a little bit of background first, a few months ago, there was what has probably become the most important electronic music trade show on European soil, and that is Superbooth in Berlin. And at Superbooth, there were several announcements of new products that were quite interesting. And one that caught my eye and indeed my ear, or ears, both ears even, was a product by Dreadbox, a Greek synth manufacturer called Nymphus. And Nymphus is a 6-voice polyphonic synthesizer that sounds absolutely amazing. Everything can be MIDI controlled. It's got quite a clever interface that seems like it takes a little bit of learning. And Sonic State did an absolutely amazing coverage of Superbooth. And I basically pre-ordered Nymphus right after watching their video on it, which was one of the first videos from Superbooth because they love Dreadbox. Dreadbox makes synthesizers with a lot of character, with very rich, deep-sounding oscillators, and with filters that do a very interesting wobble kind of thing when you push it just past the just get just the right setting. So very, very nice sounding synth, and they do have quite a big following. It's a small sort of boutique company that started out. I suppose it's about 10 years ago now, roughly, starting with pedals, and then they made synthesizers, and it's made with a lot of love and care and all that stuff that you expect from a boutique company. Now, I did order that, but then something else happened because earlier this week, 3 or 4 days ago, they announced out of the blue, they announced a new synthesizer. They announced a DIY kit synth, which is 100% modular. That is to say, there is no pre-patching between the different elements in the synth. So everything needs to be done with patch cables, and it comes as a DIY kit. And that was announced. It was up for pre-sale and announced at exactly the same time a few days ago. And you could order it a few days ago, and it's already here. Yes. I cancelled my Nymphus order because I realized that, first of all, I'm not really a polysynth kind of guy. My kind of music, when I play music, it's quite experimental, a lot of it. Improvised, experimental. I like playing with monosynths, or certainly with limited number of sound sources, and changing the sounds is sort of the main focus of how I work, rather than doing melodic things, harmonies, etc. So I'm working more with textures than I do with melodies and harmonies. And so although I'm quite sure I could have got a lot of mileage out of a polysynth like the Nymphus, what really appeals to me is more that kind of modular setup that you can get with this new one, which is called Dysphonia, by the way, which doesn't sound very encouraging. That it'll make nice sounds, but the subtitle for Dysphonia is Patching Heaven, so it sounds quite good. And that is what's in this box. So I'm going to do, it's a DIY kit, and just a few words about that too, because Dreadbox have done several DIY kits in the past. They have tended to be a little bit more difficult for a beginner to do because they would have more through-hole components on the circuit boards. This one, basically all the major components, that is to say everything that is part of the sound creation and manipulation, are surface mount components that have already been mounted onto the circuit boards. And what's left to do is the through-hole components, and that is the mini jacks. It's the potentiometers and the sliders, which basically are potentiometers as well when you think about it. and some pin headers, things like that. And also it comes with a USB power supply, or it can be powered from Eurorack. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm just going to show you what's in the box and talk a little bit about that. And I'm just going to move my view now down to my desk. So I'll see you in a few seconds. Right, here we are on my desk, and I got this box here. Let's see what is inside. So didn't need to do that. That's just the front bit. Let's see. There we are. So it comes in a nice plain little box. Now, there was one on the Dreadbox forum on Facebook. Somebody had a theory that because of the global chip shortage, Dreadbox and many other manufacturers have actually, certainly the boutique ones who don't have huge stocks of components because that's expensive, they have had to discontinue several of the earlier synthesizers, and of course they had to redesign them around what is available now as opposed to what was available before, because now you can't have, it's very hard to have a reliable source of chips and components, and of course with transport problems as well as production problems when it comes to integrated circuits, it's not very easy to do synthesizer manufacture at this kind of small level these days. So here we have, it says here, DIY kit, Dysphonia, patching heaven. It sounds really good, and it has a layout that really appeals to me. I'm going to show you in a minute. One of the things I'm going to find in here is the front panel, and it'll tell you a little bit about what's going on. So here we have several components. We can see the sliders, there are standoffs, there are pin headers, there are buttons, there is a ribbon cable, which I suppose would be for, I'm not sure if this connects together the two PCBs. There are two PCBs or three PCBs, I think, in this one. There is a Type B mini jack MIDI. I'm not sure. Am I focused now? Yeah, Type B mini jack MIDI to DIN MIDI cable. Then we have the main circuit board, and you can see there's lots of these plugs need to be soldered on. You can see where the sliders go here. Some pin headers. Yeah. And this board here is, as you can see, it's mostly, almost everything on this board is the interface. So it's the potentiometers, the mini jacks, the sliders, the and then we have just a few resistors here, mostly that are surface mounted. That looks like a diode there. Let's see what we have. This is the USB to modular power, which can be wired up in two different ways, apparently, depending on how you want to use it. And then we have, there's more here. This is the main board, where the main synthesizer board. You can see the trimmer pots here for the different functions. And of course, after putting everything together, it is a little bit of work left to calibrate everything as well. This is looking quite nice. And of course, these different modules are not patched together. So that is part of the fun of this. It is a modular synthesizer. You need to patch it. Let's move that over there. Just to see how, what we got. We got a sticker, of course, DIY love from Dreadbox. Just put the box out of the way for now. So here we have the front panel, and this tells us a little bit about what's going on here as well. I'm just going to change my focus, make sure that's in focus now. So we have a single oscillator over here, which has two CV inputs, which I find quite interesting as well, because then you can have two inputs that send different values to it, and you can have interesting things happening. It's got a pulse width input as well. You can see the inputs now, they are the ones that are highlighted in a sort of a lighter violet color. And then the outputs is square wave, sawtooth, triangle, noise as well, and there's a fine-tune knob going in there as well as a tuning knob. So multiple outputs, one for each kind of wave type, which is great because you can take the different waves and send them to different destinations, which is a brilliant way to create variety and sound. Then we have as many as 3 VCAs, a mult, and a mixer. So we got 5 different modules here, really. And of course, if you have several CV-controlled VCAs, that means you can take control signals. You got plenty of space for control signals to be modulated by other control signals before going to the final destination of controlling, for instance, an oscillator or another VCA, which means you have a lot of possibilities for cross-patching to make things affect each other a lot as well. So that is quite cool. Let's see the mixer. Let's see, so these have 3 inputs on the mixer and an output and a master level, and 3 attenuators, I believe, is there as well. And of course, a monophonic output now. But of course, technically, you can take any audio output from this and, of course, move that into another mixer. So this being a DIY kit, it obviously also makes it a little bit easier to do your own sort of modding on it. Now, I do have some ideas. I'm not going to do any of them right away. I'm just going to start out making the kit as displayed. But one of the things I had in mind was to add a stereo mixer with pan, but of course I do have a mixer. I don't need that, but it would have been fun to have it on the synth itself and next to the synth itself. Now, and then there's a MIDI to CV interface, quite a basic one. So it's a MIDI input, which is the Type B mini DAC. And we have set, I also can't remember exactly what that does now. It has different functions. And then there's a CV output and a gate output. So really, really basic, but it is the most important bit, of course, the CV and gate output. And of course, CV output from a MIDI source doesn't have to be note values. I mean, it is just voltages as far as the synthesizer is concerned, and you can use them for other things as well. Then we have probably the most fancy part of this synthesizer is the modulator. Now, the modulator is a digital module, and it has a type button. So you press this button for different things, and then it has an output and a level and a rate. And if I remember correctly, this one can be an ADSR, it can be an LFO, it can be I do say ADSR. I can't remember for sure now whether it actually is just an attack decay envelope rather than an ADSR. I think so, actually. I think it's just an attack decay. And I think well, certainly the envelope here, I think, is an attack decay, which makes it going to make it very nice for very sort of plucky sounds, I guess. So that'll be quite interesting to see how that works. It certainly will be good for making the kind of sounds that I like to do sometimes. For sort of a little bit more sort of Buchla-esque, Buchla easel kind of sounds would actually work rather well on this setup here. And then we get to something that I find very interesting, and that is you get not just one, but you get... No, sorry. LFO first. Okay. LFO first, basic thing. So CV control again, and output level and rate. But then we get to the really interesting thing, which is you get not just one, but you get 2 filters. Yeah. I think that is amazing. That is amazing because the filters on the Dreadbox stuff, they sound absolutely amazing. So we get a low pass filter, input, CV control, output, resonance, and cut frequency. And then we have a multi-mode 12 dB filter, CV in, low pass, band pass, high pass, resonance, cut. And then finally there is an echo module, a sort of a digital delay, can be quite noisy, By default, it goes up to 300 milliseconds. You can remove a resistor and get up to 1 second, but of course then it gets really gritty and noisy. Some people might like that. I haven't decided yet whether I should go for that, but I'll have a little look. So I'm gonna see if I can put this together, and I'm not going to show you exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing that. All I've done is I've printed out the instructions to make sure I can follow them and cross things off. And I'm not going to show you my poor soldering skills. If you want to see people who know how to solder, I'm sure there are lots of videos online, but I'm going to do this, and I don't want to scare anyone by showing them how I solder. And I will get this done. It's not going to be too tricky now, because what you're soldering is pin headers, buttons, jacks, and potentiometers. So and sliders. So quite simple stuff, not the sort of super detailed soldering stuff. So I'm going to get cracking on this, and when I'm done, I'm going to demonstrate what it sounds like. So I hope you'll be looking forward to that. So this will be a video on its own, and then I'm going to do another video once everything is in place and hopefully, fingers crossed, is working. So I might do a video of calibration as well. I haven't decided yet. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon in my next video, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this sounds like once assembled. Goodbye for now.